Hi everyone. So I wanted to do a quick refresher course from solving one-step equations since we're moving into solving two-step equations this week. So we're going to look at a couple different examples, go through what we had talked about before, how to solve for a variable, what that means, what it looks like, and just get you off to a good start for starting to look at two-step equations. So the first thing we have here is x plus 6 equals 14. So if you remember, we always talked about identifying where that equal sign is and drawing a line straight down on your paper as I'm doing on the whiteboard. Because this tells us, and I know it's not pretty, the two sides of the equation. Because remember we talked about how we have to keep the equation balanced on each side. This line that goes down will show us where each side of the equation is. And then once we have that line drawn, then we need to find our variable because that's what we're trying to look for. We want to figure out what it is. So I always put a box, you can put a circle, a triangle, whatever you want to put around it to identify that's where your variable is. And then on the same side of the equation, we want to get rid of, undo, opposite operation, whatever terminology worked best for you. We're trying to isolate, there's the mathematical term, isolate that x. So I need to look at what is with x right now. Well, there's a plus and a 6. And we talked about how if we need to isolate, we're going to undo or use the opposite operation of what is happening right now. So currently we have addition happening. The opposite of addition is, as we talked about, subtraction. So I'm going to quickly change my color. So to undo this, we're going to subtract 6. But remember, we have to do it to both sides. So I'm going to go on the other side of my equation line. And there's only a 14 over there. So luckily, those are like terms. I can subtract 6 from there as well. So there was the one step I was doing. So the x, I did not change. I did not do anything to the x. I did subtract 6 from a positive 6, which ends up being 0. So 6 minus 6, they will cancel out to be 0. You can put the plus 0 here. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm going to leave it there just so we can see it. The equal sign comes down because that line is our equal sign the whole time. And then 14 minus 6 is 8. So now I have x plus 0 because those cancel out, so it's really just x equals 8. So my final answer, once I isolated x is going to be 8 for this equation. Remember, you can go ahead and check if you want to. So we could do 8 plus 6 equals 14, and I know that 8 plus 6 is going to be 14. So that's a true statement. We're good to go. All right. We're going to take a look at another example. Remember, if you ever want to pause and take notes, feel free. That's always an option when you're watching a video. Okay, so similar type of setup here. We're always going to find that equal sign. Oops, right. Always going to find that equal sign and draw that line down so we know where the two sides are. We're always going to figure out where x is. So you can box, circle, triangle, whichever shape you want to put around the x so you can see it. You know where it is. And figure out what is happening to it right now. Right now it has a negative 12. Okay, so if I have a negative 12, we're going to use the opposite operation and we're going to undo it. So to undo a negative, we use a positive, right? So I can do plus 12, and that will undo that negative. And then remember, always do the same thing to both sides. So I have to go all the way across this line over to the 3 and add 12 over here as well. So a negative 12 plus a 12 is going to cancel out to be 0. We still have a positive x. We still have our equal sign, and 3 plus 12 is going to be 15. So my final answer is x equals 15 for this particular equation. So let's check that real fast. Negative 12 plus a positive 15 is supposed to equal 3. Well, if I think negative 12 plus 15 is the same thing as 15 minus 12, it is going to be 3. A-okay to go. All right, remember, if you need to pause and take notes, please do so. You can rewind, do whatever you need to do for the video. So we're going to take a look at another one. Almost done, I promise. Okay, so this one is a different look. It has a different look to it. We're always going to do the first two things. Identify where that equal sign is, and box, circle, triangle, whatever she'd like to put around x. And figure out what is happening to it right now. So right now, I have this -6 and this x kind of smushed together. We talked about when you don't see an operation symbol, you don't see a plus or minus or a multiplication or division. If they're pushed together, it's a number and a letter. It means there's multiplication happening. That little tiny dot that would be there that we use in math, they just kind of squish it together and push the two together. So multiplication is happening. That means I need to use the opposite, which is division. So I have to divide by -6. Remember, I'm dividing -6 and x because they're being multiplied together. So I'm dividing both of those things by -6. And I always have to remember to do whatever I do on one side to the opposite side as well. So I have to go over my line. Some I'm going to the left and some to the right. But it doesn't matter which direction as long as you go over the line. So I can divide by 6 over here. All right, so I'm gonna read it from left to right because that's how I always read math. So 18 divided by -6. Well, it's a positive divided by a negative, so I know it's gonna be a negative. 18 divided by 6 is gonna be 3. I still have my equal sign. And then -6x divided by -6. These are going to cancel out to be 1, and I'm still going to have my x. So that actually gives me my solution. It can be -3 equals x or x equals -3. Either one will work. So let's check that real fast. 18 equals -6 times -3. Remember when we substituted it, we put it in parentheses so that we know we have to multiply. So -6 times -3 is going to be a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 3 is going to be 18. And that does equal 18, so we're okay. All right. Stick with me, everybody. We've got one more to go through. Remember, you can pause, rewind, whatever you need to do to make sure you take notes. So here is our last one. Change my color up again. Okay, this one looks even a little more tricky. We're gonna do the exact same 2 steps every time. Draw our line so we know where our 2 sides of the equation are, and put some type of box symbol picture around the variable so we know what we are solving for. Now we need to figure out what is happening to it. X over 5. I know if it's over something, that means division is happening. So it's x divided by 5. And then to undo or use the opposite operation, we have to use multiplication. Remember, we're not multiplying x. We're trying to multiply to undo the division of 5. So what we want to do is multiply by 5. And need to make sure we go over the line, do the exact same thing to the other side. Let me draw this line and change my color because this one's a little trickier. So going left to right, 5 times -4 is going to be a negative answer, and then 5 times 4 is 20. I still have my equal sign, so it's times 5 over 5. I'm going to put this little thing right here. We know that any whole number can be turned into a fraction by putting it over 1. This is something that's going to help you in the 2 steps. Instead of considering it like x divided by 5, let's multiply by 5. Try to think of it as multiplying by the reciprocal. We talked about this a little bit in the 1 step. You want to do x divided by 5 is really 1x over 5. I don't know if you can see that pink one. There's a 1 in front of the x. So all you're going to do is multiply by the reciprocal of the number. Again, remember, we're not multiplying by x. We're keeping x where it is. We want to keep it there. So we need to multiply by the number part. So if we have 1 over 5, multiply by the reciprocal, and reciprocals are special because they always reduce to 1 when you multiply them, because these will be able to cancel out, the 1s will be able to cancel out, and we just have a 1x. So we can look at our, oops, I was almost going to write at 30. Look at our answer in 2 ways. Either one is correct, and we can always check it. -4 equals -20 divided by 5. We know that a negative divided by a positive is going to be a negative, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped refresh you. I know we just did 1 steps, but again, I want you to think about it in a little bit different light because we are going to be looking at 2-step equations this week.